Welcome back to another episode of the Isn't That Rich podcast. Today, Jared and I are going to be talking about emergency funds and the importance of them during these uncertain times. And it seems like we've had uncertain times the last 4 or 5 years. So maybe these uncertain times are just going to continue, but I do think you should have an emergency fund. So yep, we're going to just be talking about what an emergency fund is, some tips for funding it, some pitfalls with it. And yeah.
Everyone needs one.
Do you have one?
You can do it. I'm working on it, you know.
Good.
It's a process. I think it can be daunting because people feel like you have to have it right away, but no, it's a process to build it up. So let's start with what is an emergency fund. So you got to really think of it as it's basically your safety net. So you really want your emergency fund to be 3 to 6 months of your essential living expenses. So your rent, your mortgage, your groceries, insurance payments, utilities, all those kinds of things, everything you need to live off of for 3 to 6 months, which that's a lot, right?
Well, and I think that is the recommended time length because, it's hard. If you don't have a job, it's hard to get a job within 2 weeks unless you got something lined up. I mean, if you lose your job, going out, finding a job, doing interviews, all that stuff, you never know how long that can take. I remember when I was in college, they said, and this was just for after college, but it can take up to 7 to 9 months on average for someone to get a job. So the 3 to 6 months is kind of what people say, but I think if you felt comfortable saving longer for a longer amount of time, you could.
Because you never know. It happens every day. No one, So it's just a good cushion to have and work towards. So where should you keep your emergency fund? We really recommend putting it in a high yield savings account. Yeah. So nothing kind of risky like the stock or anything like that.
Because you don't want to lose money on it.
You don't want to lose money. You don't want something risky. A high yield savings account, you're guaranteed to earn interest and make money off of that. It's just by sitting there, which is pretty great.
Jill and I were talking about this yesterday, but I feel like a lot of people kind of maybe just have one or two, they might just have a checking and a savings, which is fine. But when you're looking at an emergency fund, I feel like it needs to be a separate account, something stowed away where you can't. I just feel like you need to view it differently than you would this is just in my checking and I have access to this money. This really needs to be something that's kind of set apart. Yeah. Saving money elsewhere is risk averse.
You almost you don't want to see it. There's at the bank, a lot of times you can have this account that doesn't show up on your mobile banking, or you don't really have access to it, or they make it difficult for you to have access to it. We really recommend setting that up where it's not I want to buy this giant television, so I'm just going to move money over from my emergency fund so I can buy it. Isn't it? And honestly, that is what I do a lot of times with savings account.
Yeah, because you view it all as just free money instead of this is designated for an emergency.
So for years, I thought my savings account was my emergency fund, but like you're saying, it really does need to be a separate hidden thing to do that.
And quite frankly, I think you can have 2 different types of emergency funds. I think you can have a 3 to 6 months living expense one and build that up in a high yield savings. And then I also have one that's just a little over $1,000 in case, I don't know, just if I don't lose my job, but maybe something qualifies as an emergency that I'm going to pull that money from.
You have access to it right away.
What?
You have access to it right away type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't have it on my online banking because I don't want to see it.
Right.
Because I don't want to act like I know what it is. But if I was in an emergency and I was I'm going to swipe from that account,
So first dibs emergency fund.
First what?
If your furnace breaks or something like that.
Did you say first dibs? What's first dibs mean?
It's the first emergency fund account you're going to access. And then you have another one, and that's
you
if you lose your job, right?
Yeah,
or a big medical expense, type of thing.
You might need to I get what you're saying now, Jared. I thought you meant a furnace,
And I don't know if first dibs is the right thing, but you're you're dipping into it the first. However you want to do it.
However you want to use your money, use that money. Okay, well, Now that we know what an emergency fund is and how we're going to use it, let's talk about some challenges with building an emergency fund. I think the first challenge is just getting started because, when you are making money, you typically don't want to like save it or keep it or like really give it structure because it feels a little like, oh, this isn't mine anymore. Like I want to use this extra $10 a month towards a subscription. I don't know. So I think getting started is the hardest part. And I think also feeling like, oh my gosh, 3 to 6 months living expenses. I don't have, that many thousands of dollars to put in an account right now. Like it feels like it's just a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I think just starting small and facing the challenge in that way is just to start small. I mean, you can literally open an account and just fund it very, very slowly. If you have $10, start it that way. I don't know. Put it in a piggy bank. I don't know. I know when I started mine, I set up some auto transfers and that helped me significantly, just like forgetting about the extra. I think I put like literally $10 a month in mine auto transfer every month. And that really just helped me realize like, whoop.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt anymore to give this, because now I can go see this account and see that I've built up, more money than I started with. And that's great. And that's like a good feeling. Knowing if my furnace does go out, my first dibs account, I can just swipe from it. Probably if my furnace did go out, this amount wouldn't cover it yet, but it is nice. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say some other challenges with building an emergency fund is like just looking at your bank account and feeling like you have money kind of leaking from it and like these random places with like subscriptions, anything like that. So I recommend just going through your bank account, looking for some budget leaks and then patching up some holes and then reallocating your money that way.
I don't think people realize how much money you can save by eliminating those things. Or like you're saying, like do the $10 a week transferring into your, like you won't miss that money.
You don't miss it.
Right? It's like, so, and the cool thing about our app is you can set that up. I have that as well, where like every week it takes a certain amount and puts it directly into my savings and emergency fund. So it's just small, Yeah. But if you think about it, you're doing that over a few years.
Plus it's building some interest.
Hundreds, thousands of dollars.
Hundreds of thousands.
Not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on how much money you're moving over.
I mean, I've had mine for about 3 years and you must be allocating way more than I am.
No.
Yeah, I would say getting started is the hardest part
Yes.
So just do it, get started, make it a priority, because when an emergency comes around, we all know that emergencies do happen. You'll be thankful that money was there.
We're a broken record, but we always say, give every dollar a job. Every dollar you make needs to have a job, and you need to know what job those dollars are doing. It could be buying entertainment, which is a lot.
Put that to work.
But it needs to be probably savings or, whatever that is.
Yeah, just put it somewhere. I even think like if you're, if you are a super diligent budgeter and you've got leftover money at the end of the month, put that either in your 3 to 6 months emergency fund or like your other little emergency fund. First dibs account.
Your first dibs account.
They're going to start like selling that product to farmers. We want to offer you a first dibs account. It's a new product. Actually, our marketing team trademarked the name.
I don't know. I literally have never said first dibs before. I don't know. Is that like...
I get what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Let's move on.
I don't know. We'll move on. So here's some more tips for saving faster, right? Because you can work that 9 to 5, deposit that percentage into your emergency fund, but there are some other ways that you can grow that a little bit quicker. First one is going to be side hustles. So that could be freelancing, delivering groceries, selling unused items, Facebook Marketplace. We do a lot of like, there's a thing that we have called like to know it. Ashley and I, we're going to talk about it, you know, where things that we buy, we share about it online and
get some commission.
You send a link. And if people click the link and buy it, you get commission. Yeah. That's a side hustle.
Yeah.
And that's super easy.
Right? I love to look at any little thing that I do that is outside of my career as a side hustle. And like, I look at that money as extra money or savings money, putting it somewhere else. Like it is just the cherry on top of my salary. So taking that money and putting it into an emergency fund or savings is like,
what would be
great.
Best is to say any money that you make from your side hustle goes directly into something like an emergency fund or, you know, delegating that money for a job, or that's like a vacation fund but if you don't have your emergency fund, that's a great way. Like I do a lot of photography gigs on the side, which is easy because, you know, you work a full-time job, but sometimes there'll be a weekend. You're like, will you take some photos? Yeah. That's a great way to make money, you know, do that. So, some other ways would be, so if you get a tax refund at the end of the year,
I'm laughing.
Mine wasn't very big this year. I don't know what happened.
I owe the government some money.
So some of you owe the government. Some of you might get a fatty tax refund.
Good for you.
You know, if you do, put that into your emergency fund.
Always takes for me.
Federal always Illinois. Illinois taxes, let me tell you. Okay, Illinois. And then if you get a bonus at the end of the year, put that money into an emergency fund. Or if, you know, you still get cash gifts from mom and dad on Christmas time.
My great grandma used to mail me a check every Christmas. I'd see her like once every 5 years. And I was like, $25? Okay.
There's something about
check
cash in a thing. It just, man. Yeah. So, I mean, all that can really add up to be quite a bit.
Yeah. I think there are many ways throughout the year through the side hustles, tax season, grandma, you know.
Yeah.
There are ways to make a little bit more money if you just put yourself out there and go find a little extra work.
But just think about that. If you just set out to say every dollar that I make from a side hustle this year is going to go into my emergency fund. How much would that be for you?
Well, and how much more, like that would make you feel so much better. I think there's nothing worse than financial stress. Like it literally makes your life feel like
it's like chaos. The highest. I mean, financial stress is the highest leading cause of divorce.
Welcome to the psychology podcast.
Look into it. Yeah.
Look into it. We've seen TikToks about it.
There's a lot of TikTok data about financial stress.
No, I think you're right. I do think you're right. So save your marriage and get an emergency fund. Okay.
The last one. So another tip is temporary cutbacks. So cut out non-essentials for a while. Maybe cook at home instead of dining out, or pause that gym membership, you know.
You're not using it anyway.
In the winter, you know, you're maybe a little more cuddly, but you got that fat emergency fund, right?
Come on. Come on.
You can work out in the summertime. But yeah, that's a way, like you were saying, cut like subscriptions, really comb through that stuff, because I realized because I edit a lot, and I have a lot of like photo editing apps on my phone that I got and subscriptions, and I would sign up for like the free trial and forget to unsubscribe. So there were a lot that I was paying for that I didn't realize. So just realize maybe how many apps that you're maybe paying for and don't realize it.
Yeah. I think that stuff really adds up. Even if it's just like 2 subscriptions, like that can add up to $20 a month real quick. I mean, I know I have 2 subscriptions right now that I can think of that are $20 a month. And if I was just like, maybe I want to keep them, but if I did get rid of them and then I just immediately was like auto transfer, I'm still not missing that money because it was going out of my account anyway to something I wasn't using.
Yep.
So send it to something that is going to be beneficial for you.
Sell those clothes you're not wearing. Sell that furniture.
Try to do it on Poshmark. No one's going to buy it. Except for Jared, you shop on Poshmark.
I do shop on Poshmark. You can get some really good deals. But I don't know if I ever sold anything on Poshmark. So you may want to go to, what is that thrift store where you can like donate it and they'll pay you?
Plato's Closet.
Plato's Closet.
But usually you go there and they're like, your stuff isn't good enough. So then you just have like a Versace. You're like in Paducah and you have a ton of clothes. You're like, I'll just go home.
You spend like $40 in gas to go there. Anyway, maybe don't do that. Try Facebook Marketplace first.
Yeah.
Craigslist. I don't know.
We're giving people so many ways to make money here. Come on. Okay. So we've gone through a couple of things. Let's talk about how you should use your emergency fund, when and why you should use it, because not everything's an emergency, right, Jared?
Say what?
Okay. Just because you need a new suit for the Christmas party does not mean that's an emergency purchase. Okay.
It was on sale. Okay.
Okay. Well, no, but seriously, I think that people, that's what you do if you don't have this mental picture of like, this is a no-go account right now for things that I want. It's not for your wants. It's not for your needs. It's for an emergency, you know?
Right.
So I think like your tire going out, popping, that's an emergency. That's something that happened to you. I'm probably going to sweep from that account. Your furnace going out, your fridge going out.
Yep.
That's an emergency. We got to have those things.
Right.
So let's use that. So I think like medical things, home things. I don't know. I think people can gauge for themselves what is an emergency to them, but it's definitely not your wants. I can tell you that. If you're like, I have to have the new.
You got to have a new iPhone.
I got to have the new iPhone. Now, if
that's
you're
like my emergency.
And even, I would even say like if your phone broke, like I don't, would you say that's an emergency or it's just like, I'm sorry, you just have to buy a new phone.
If your job requires, you know, like our jobs really do require like us to have a phone.
Yeah,
like,
gotta have a phone. We gotta have a phone.
You know, just identify what your emergencies are. I think it's pretty common.
That's a great way to say it. Identify what your own emergencies are. But it's definitely not a suit. Jared didn't buy a suit with his emergency fund. I did
buy a suit.
I do think you're prone to sweeping from your savings though.
I'm very prone from I just transfer from my savings all the time. I got to stop. I got to hide that thing from me.
Hide that thing. Get it off your online banking and act like you don't have any money.
Really, if you are like me, create that account that you cannot see, that you barely have access to.
Yeah. So once we have an emergency and we've maybe depleted our funds a little bit, what are we going to do?
Yeah. Okay. So first thing first is you really need to rework your budget. So hopefully you already have a budget, but you're going to need to rework it because now you're kind of starting from scratch again. But thank God you had an emergency fund that you could use and take money out. So really redirecting things like dining out, streaming services, or shopping. Those are all wants, not needs. So you're going to necessarily have to live without doing those things for a period of time. And so you can kind of replenish that.
And I would also be like, don't think that another emergency isn't going to happen because you're like, oh, I got by with this one and thank God I had that, like, blah.
Yeah.
You really should replenish it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen again.
I mean,
that tire's going to pop.
If us millennials
have you seen the construction out here on
13? Life's a little crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You never know what 2025 is going to hold. Anyway, small goals add up. So set a target. Maybe it's going to be $100 a month and stick to it. Even small amounts make a difference. I will say, like, automating those transfers from your checking to that savings account is the best way. My issue is like, not that it like hurts to move that money over. I'm just lazy and don't remember to like do that every time I get paid.
You're like, I really need to do that.
I just want it to happen automatically. I don't want to have to think about it. And I don't think about it. It happens every week, every month. And I don't think about it, but I know that there is money going into those accounts. Do that. If you're a little more prone to be not on top of moving money around every single week or, you know, those kinds of things, automate that.
Yeah.
Quick wins. Again, sell stuff you don't need. Take a short-term gig, you know, singing at a wedding. I don't know. Just kidding. Or use any unexpected cash to get the ball rolling. So, just kind of thinking of ways that you can build that. And again, I think the best advice is start small, because small doesn't make you like feel overwhelmed. This doesn't have to happen overnight, but a small step is still,
you're still starting it. And I think that's just the hardest part. So once you get started on it, so I would say starting it and then replenishing it are probably the hardest. I'm sure writing the check to the emergency that happened is hard too, but
yeah,
thank God you had the emergency fund. I feel so much better knowing that, like, I started one and I've got it rolling, and it's just, I don't even think about it anymore. And I think consistency is key. So just keeping consistent with your automations, like you're saying.
And
so
we've entered into a new year. I would say sit down, take 10 minutes and come up with a plan on how you're going to save for your emergency fund. So say my goal is to do a side hustle, and I want to put in at least $1,000
by the end of the year. You can do that.
I'm going to say I'm going to automate $10 a week, $20 a week from my checking account into my emergency fund. I'm going to go ahead and get that set up. Do that first of the year. Like,
yeah, that's a great New Year's goal.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Otherwise, you're going to forget about it and you'll be like, I was going to do that and I didn't. Like, sit down and do that, especially at the beginning of the year. You're not going to regret it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, honestly, if I can say anything, I think an emergency fund is like the best place to start when it comes to getting your finances in order. Because you trying to, invest more or make a bunch of money or do all these things or do it, like, it's not, I feel like the emergency fund is that like security net, like you're talking about. It's the foundation to like building up to other things, to your needs and then your wants. And so just starting with that, I think, is a good kickoff for the new year.
Love it.
Love it. Well, this has been fun, Jared. Thanks for talking about emergency funds with me. I appreciate it.
Make an emergency fund.
Okay, on that note,
that was dumb.
On that note, I'm going to close us out. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope that you subscribe to us on social media and maybe our little newsletter every week. We've got a lot of fun marketing stuff for you guys. So thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
So Jill, where do we go from here? Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.